All right, guys, so we are going to go through notes today on mammals. So all of these cute little guys are all mammals. So up here we have a little monkey and a tapir, polar bear, a black rhino, a red panda, a hippopotamus, a cheetah, a sloth, giraffe, platypus. All of those different things are all mammals. So, all in all, there's about 4,500 different species that belong in this class. So, when we're talking about all of the different organisms in the entire world, there's not that many that are actually mammals, but they're the cutest, I think. Okay. So, a lot of different characteristics we have for something being a mammal. One of them we like to say is having hair. And even animals that appear to be hairless still do have some hair. So, like dolphins actually do have sensory whiskers, as do whales do. So, they don't have hair all over their whole body, but that ability to grow hair that is made out of a protein called keratin. So, your hair is made out of that protein. Okay. And we actually think, and we have scientific evidence, that that keratin is really, really closely related to the scales of reptiles. So if you imagine a scale on a reptile, they're kind of like layered, kind of sort of. If you would peel up those individual scales, round them off, then you get hair shafts. So we actually think that they are modified scales. Some of the purposes for these hair is insulation, but some other functions of hair is for camouflage, so different colorings and different things like that. We also have sensory hairs as well, like whiskers on cats or dogs. So some of you guys might already know the fun fact that the whiskers on a cat, like the picture off to the side over here, um, those whiskers are as wide as that animal's body is. So when they're trying to like go through a hole or something like that, if their whiskers don't touch the ends, they know they can fit. So actually, when cats get really, really fat, if we humans overfeed them, they can actually get stuck. Or if you cut the whiskers off of a cat, they will often get stuck in different places, and that's mean. Don't do that. Icky. So something else that mammals have that you probably have heard of before is being able to give milk. So milk has different fats, vitamins, protein, sugar, all of those different things, and it's produced by mammary glands, which are actually a type of gland that is very, very close to what a sweat gland is, and they also make food. However, it also provides a little bit of protection, okay? Because they don't have to abandon their child to go find food for them, okay? They don't have to like hunt stuff down or anything like that. With milk, the really, really cool thing is that the first milk that a mammal makes is called colostrum. That colostrum has lots of antibodies, and often it looks kind of like golden yellowy because it has actually like medicine in it. So it's really, really important that baby mammals drink from their mother as soon as possible because it's basically like giving a vaccine for a lot of different things straight to that baby. Another thing that mammals can do is thermoregulate. So you guys have probably heard of the term endothermic and exothermic. So most birds are endothermic homeotherms. So homeo means what? I feel like Dora the Explorer, like I'm asking nobody what homeo means. So homeo means to stay, temperature, endo internal. So they try to keep their temperature internalized, maintain their own body temperature. So we do this through metabolism, okay? Whereas if we have an ectotherm, tropical reptiles and different things like that, they have to like lay out in the sun or get their heat in other ways because they cannot maintain their own body heat. This is a really, really big deal. And it's the reason why reptiles can't live throughout the world, but mammals can. The other thing about mammals is, and we've kind of skipped around a little bit in this zoology, and we're going to just talk about chordates for the rest of the year. But one of the things is that they have a heart that is completely divided. So when we talk about birds and reptiles, you're going to see that is not the case. So we're going to start here and then look at the different modifications because I'm at this point in your lives, you guys have all seen like a human heart, like the picture right above me. So you have body. Your body cells suck the oxygen out of it. It goes back to your heart. It gets pumped into your lungs, picks up more oxygen, goes back into your heart, and then gets pumped out to the rest of your body. So we actually have four chambers in our heart. We have left and right atrium, and then on the bottom we have left and right ventricles. Okay. So this is so we don't mix the deoxygenated and the oxygenated blood together. Okay. It's very, very higher level, which is kind of cool. In all mammals, they also have lungs. We don't have any gills or anything like that. And all of the lungs are set up in the same way. So if you can see the pictures up at the top, when you breathe in, your diaphragm lowers. It allows your lung cavity to expand. You are creating a vacuum actually and sucking in air because you're creating a vacuum. When your diaphragm relaxes, you are pushing all of that air out, and then that's breathing. Okay. And the pictures down below over here, we have our alveoli. So we have these little air sacs. So these air sacs are in your lungs. So if you can imagine in your lungs, it's like a bunch of little balloons. So when you breathe in, all of those balloons filled up, and every single one of those balloons is surrounded by a net of capillaries, as you can see in this first picture right here. So what happens is when you breathe in, oxygen goes in. It all has to do with diffusion. So if you have a high level of oxygen in your lungs and a low level in the blood, it wants to go from high to low. So it goes into your blood. Same thing with CO2. So when we have, and it's shown in that second picture on the bottom, if you have a high level of CO2 in your blood, when you breathe in, it goes into your lungs because you have a lower level of CO2 in your lungs. So when you're breathing out all of that CO2 that is diffused out of your lungs. Kind of cool stuff. The other thing that's really, really unique about mammals is that we have a single jawbone. Okay, so mammals have a single jawbone. So with us, our jaw is just one. So if you think about like snakes or anything like that, they can unhinge and take their jaw apart. We are very unique because it is one bone. Okay. This is important in identifying animals because bones we can see through kind of like history, with fossil evidence. But with mammals, as you look at here, we have just one jawbone. So sometimes in the front, they aren't connected. Like if you've ever found a deer skull or something like that in the woods, you can just get the one side of it. So what we mean by a single bone, if you can see the reptilian and the avian, so avian is anything with a bird jaw, all of these pieces here are all different bones. Okay. So in mammals, they're all one, which is very, very important. It's how we classify them. The other thing as well is that we all have very similar patterned teeth, okay? And our teeth are specialized. So if you think about any of the movies where you see like a snake with venom and stuff like that, they have their fangs that are hollow, but the rest of them are all just sharp little pointy teeth. And then birds, of course, don't have teeth because a bird with a toothy grin would be horror land. That would be terrifying. So when we're talking about our different teeth, we have incisors, so our ones in the front. Those are used for biting and cutting. Okay, so if you think about like biting into an apple or something like that. And then behind, you have your sharp, pointy canines. So obviously on other mammals, look for Duke. He's sleeping right now. I can't show you. You all know what dog teeth look like. So those are meant for stabbing and like holding prey. So if you think about like a predator that has to like catch prey, sink its teeth into it so it can't escape, that's what canines are for. And then we have our bicuspids. So if you feel just behind your canines, sometimes they're also called premolars. They're a little bit flatter. They have like 2 points and they're used to like tear and shred your food. So if you think about like if you eat a piece of meat and you got to chew it a little bit, you don't chew it with your teeth in the front. That would be so weird if you're like chewing like that. You kind of chew it back here a little bit, right? To like mush it up so you can swallow it. And then the back, you got your molars. So depending on, or in the molars, those are used for more like grinding, crushing, if you're eating grains or seeds or vegetables or anything like that. So if you think about the different types of teeth that all of these mammals have, we can actually tell if they're an herbivore, if they're a carnivore or an omnivore. The teeth that we have are very indicative of being omnivores because we have like a little bit of everyone. We have kind of like the variety pack of teeth. So if we look at this, adult mammals keep their teeth through their whole life. So here, up on the top, we have sharks, where they have like a conveyor belt of rows and rows and rows of teeth. Okay, so we sharks have that, and we have found fossil evidence that dinosaurs also did this. So they're probably more closely related to those reptiles than they would be to mammals. Okay, and this is just more evidence of that. So when we're talking about the origin of these mammals, if you look at the phylogenetic tree that I have over here, it kind of makes sense to talk about them first because if you look, reptiles, tortoises, birds, all of that stuff kind of came off separately. And then we formed our own, we as mammals, like if I'm a panda bear, I don't know, we kind of came off separately. Okay. So this split we think happened about 300 million years ago, and it created two groups of animals. One is the mammals, and then we had kind of like the reptiles. So that was our first split. So first, we're going to talk specifically about mammals. So these early animals, we define them by their skull structure. So we have a single opening behind each, oh my gosh, eye opening, and that is where your ear would go. Okay, so we have a single opening there. And then we have the therapsid, and they have two openings with that hinged jaw. So this is how we're starting to see kind of evolution of modern day animals or mammals happening. So these therapsids have many different similarities. We have different types of teeth. We have the position of the limbs for climbing. So if you think about like a reptile, their limbs are kind of like out to the side like this. Mammals tuck their limbs underneath them to walk more. And I, I can barely show. I just look like an idiot. But you know what? It's gonna be okay. So we use the word cytodont, which means dog teeth, because there was a group of animals that we kind of think was like the missing link between reptiles and mammals. And some of those are on, I keep pointing in the wrong direction. You guys know what I'm talking about. Some of those animals are on the side there, and they're kind of like a furry kimono dragon, kind of, sort of. Um, if this stuff really, really interests you, I highly recommend. I believe it's on Amazon Prime. Nova has a series called like Your Inner Fish, Your Inner Lizard. Watch those. They're very well done. And if you feel the need to binge on something but don't want your brain to go to mush, I would highly recommend watching those. Send me an email if you want a link to it. Really, really good stuff. Talks all about that process. So we think that these early mammals were very, very little, and they kind of look like little weird lizard mice. Very, very weird. Large eye sockets. So we know that they're probably nocturnal because the bigger your eyes are compared to your body size, the more light can actually go in. So that indicates being nocturnal. And they were probably insectivores. So insect eating animals have more little tiny pointy teeth because they got to catch the insects and then rip them apart and tear them. So dinosaurs were dominant for like 150 million years. Once those extinctions happened, that opened up different niches that took away those reptiles, where these little mammal reptile creatures were able to fill those niches and then proliferate. So kind of cool stuff. It kind of happens with every extinction. When one animal goes away, you got to fill the void. One animal goes away, you got to fill the void. So that's kind of what happened. So in the Cenozoic era, which is right now, we call this the golden age of mammals. So mammals are our dominant megafauna. Okay, so when we're talking about megafauna, that is big animals. Megafauna used to be dinosaurs, but now our megafauna, our big animals, are like whales and elephants and giraffes and all of that cool stuff. Okay. So right now, and you can pause your screen, or you guys have the PowerPoint, you can look at this. Um, Half of all mammals are in decline as of right now. Scientists are unsure if this is happening because of like a natural ebb and flow of extinctions, and we just happen to be higher reasoning animals that are around during this, so we're overanalyzing it, or if it's because of something that we're doing. We don't know. Look up the article, read it. It's some good stuff. All right, so diversity of mammals. With this, we are going to classify them in terms of reproduction. So we have monotremes, placentals, and marsupials. You guys probably heard of marsupials. So they basically give birth to like a fetus, and the fetus then climbs into the pouch and hangs out there. Super crazy, super cool. Placentals are like us, give birth to live young. Monotremes are very unique in that there's only two of them, echidnas and platypi. However, there may be more. We don't know. We just haven't discovered them. But those are mammals that actually lay eggs. So they have all other hallmarks of being a mammal, but they lay eggs. So we're just going to go through these and I'll stop the PowerPoint for today. So monotremes, mammals that lay eggs, duckbill platypus, um, kind of like a spiny anteater echidna sort of thing here. They're only found in Australia, Tasmania, New Guinea region, and they come from a term that means one hold. So they have a urinary tract, an anus, and a reproductive tract that are all the same hole. That is very, very similar to a bird. A bird also has this opening called the cloaca as well. So monotremes are oviparous, meaning that they lay eggs, and the eggs aren't like hard like a chicken egg is. They're kind of like a leathery shelled egg. And the cutest thing ever, the babies are called puggles. And those are the puggles. They're so cute. Oh my gosh. So they're partially developed when they hatch, so they do have to depend on their parents. So if we look at a platypus specifically, they have waterproof fur, webbed feet, flattened tail. They're like halfway between a duck and a beaver. They burrow under the ground. Um, Newborns lick milk from nippleless mammary glands. So basically, the milk just like leaks out, and males and females both make this. They're so weird. I love them. They're absolutely cool. And to further the weirdness, male platypi are venomous. They have a spike on their ankle and it can like shiv you with their ankle spike. Super crazy animals. A platypus is also a carnivore. What? They are carnivorous. So well, they're not going to like take down a dingo or something like that, but they eat crayfish, worms, insects, snails, shrimp, kind of those arthropods. So, but they do eat meat. It's super crazy. And just like a hamster, they have little cheek pouches that they can store food in when they're hunting underwater. Crazy. So if we're looking at an echidna, they're also known as a spiny anteater. They actually look like sea urchins, super crazy, because they curl up into a ball, and that's their defense mechanism. Just like my defense mechanism against the world is just going into my human sock like that. They do the same thing. Okay. So echidnas lay a single egg in a pouch in the female's belly. And the egg, same thing, has a leathery shell. In about 10 days, it hatches. They're blind and hairless, super kind of crazy. And then in a few weeks, once that baby can come out, then it develops its spines. Otherwise, it would hurt the mother. So these guys are insectivores. They eat only insects. They catch them with their tongue, just like an anteater, because these guys basically are different types of anteaters. So then we have marsupials. There's actually quite a few different types. Kangaroos and wallabies are the ones that we always think of, but we also have wombats, sugar gliders, a numbat, a bandicoot, which, yes, is an actual animal. Crash Bandicoot is based off of that little animal. Crazy different stuff. So these are viviparous, which that means that they give birth to live animals. So if we look at the baby opossum, different stuff like that, these are in a very immature state. They look like a fetus that can survive outside. So what actually happens is like this little jelly bean size thing, it will actually be born, if we're talking about like a kangaroo, and it will crawl from the vaginal canal of the animal up and around to the pouch and then go inside the pouch where inside the pouch there's actually like a nipple or a teat that it will suck onto and it will latch and it will stay almost semi-permanently attached there until it's grown big enough to survive outside. Super nuts. So there's actually about 280 species of marsupials. A lot of them live in Australia, New Guinea, that same kind of region. So Tasmanian devils, koalas, quokka, which Cutest thing. Oh my goodness. This is why mammals are the cutest. All of those different things are marsupials. And then we have placental mammals. So these are viviparous, live young. So like a human, so that's a picture of a C-section happening up there. And over to the side there, that's what a placenta is. So it is very veiny sort of thing. And what happens with that placenta is while the baby is developing, it gets all of the food, oxygen, nutrients through that placenta, and then it also transfers its waste into that placenta so the mother can then excrete those different wastes. So I'm sure you guys have all seen horrors of childbirth. All of these different things, the embryo develops inside. We have the umbilical cord that you can see up above there. We have the fetal, basically tubes, and the mom's tubes are right next to each other. So they actually exchange nutrients through diffusion and osmosis, which is kind of cool. And that's actually how a baby and a mom can have a different blood type from each other because the blood actually doesn't go back and forth. It's just the nutrients that go back and forth across that placenta through diffusion and osmosis. Okay, so we are going to stop the video for today. So make sure you fill out your notes, copy and paste them into a Google Doc,